No physician could determine what had befallen the young girl, but then her canine companion noticed something everyone else had overlooked. Nobody at the medical center comprehended what was occurring with little Leeser. The lab results appeared flawless, the medical staff felt bewildered, yet her health continued to decline. However, everything shifted when Rex, her German shepherd and closest companion since infancy, burst into the room. He didn't merely leap onto the mattress, it was as if he was attempting to communicate something. The practitioners observed with intensity, unable to grasp the dog's actions. And then Rex perceived precisely what they had neglected. Rex had not departed from Leeser's side for a single moment since her arrival at the hospital. He was permitted to remain in the ward solely because the girl's condition deteriorated whenever the dog was removed. It appeared that his respiration, his nearness, his warmth were the only things keeping her consciousness afloat. Leeser lay there, pallid, looking faded, with dark circles under her eyes. Her arms were so enfeebled she could not even support the mask. The specialists repeated the same statement continuously. All vitals are standard. We cannot locate the source. But Leeser's mother, Olga, only gripped her tiny hand more tightly. She is perishing. And you claim it is normal, she exhaled with a quivering voice. Rex stood up and circumnavigated the bed. Something was disturbing him. He would raise his muzzle, then lower his ears, then approach Leeser's pink backpack, which was always nearby, even now. The girl never parted with it. At a certain point, he even growled softly, not at the people, but at the backpack itself. What is wrong with him, the doctor wondered. He never acts this way, Olga stated. Leeser, honey, what did you carry in there? No response came. The girl was too frail, and suddenly Rex decisively gripped the zipper with his teeth. Hey, shouted one of the physicians, but the canine did not obey. He tugged, then tugged again. It seemed he was desperately striving to extract something. Not a plaything, not school supplies, but something distinct. Olga stepped closer, feeling a chill crawl over her skin. Rex froze, burying his nose in the open knapsack, and let out a quiet, prolonged whine, as if saying, Here, observe, you are missing the most crucial thing. When Rex growled a second time, louder and more anxiously, everyone in the chamber fell silent. Even the monitors seemed to beep more quietly. Olga slowly approached the dog. What is there, Rex? Step back, let me see. She knelt down and cautiously peered inside the pink backpack. On top were ordinary items, a notebook with a yellow cover, a small soft panda toy, a plastic water bottle, but in the very corner lay something dark, dense, and rolled up. Olga frowned and extended her hand. Wait, do not touch it, the doctor with reddish hair said sharply. We must figure out what that is. But Rex growled again, this time at the doctor. Defensively, resolutely. Olga retrieved the object anyway. It was a small, filthy sachet, resembling a homemade amulet, tied with a black thread. There were dark stains on the fabric. It smelled strange, unpleasant. What is this? She asked in a whisper. It looks like herbs, the second doctor slowly pronounced, or something organic. Rex stood beside Olga. The fur on his nape stood on end. He stared at the sachet as if it were an enemy. This was not here before, Olga said. Leeser never. Suddenly, the girl whispered softly, Don't touch. Everyone turned abruptly. Leeser barely opened her eyes. He said it would protect, she whispered. Who said? Olga leaned closer. The uncle near the school, he gave it, said I looked weak and that this is a charm. Olga's heart plummeted. What uncle? But Leeser was already drifting back into sleep. The doctor furrowed his brow. It seems to be some mixture of plants, but the composition is unclear. It might be toxic. Rex quietly yapped, sharply and insistently, as if confirming, toxic. With trembling fingers, Olga untied the black thread. Inside were dried herbs, fine dust, and something that looked like a clump of dark soil. The physician bent down, sniffed, and recoiled sharply. The smell, it is some kind of fungus or mold. Possibly a high-concentration allergen. Rex paced nervously nearby, as if demanding the sachet be discarded immediately. But how could this cause such symptoms, the nurse asked. If she wore it right against her body for a long time. The doctor turned pale. It could have been poisoning her slowly through respiration. Olga felt the world sway beneath her. My little girl. All this while, the second doctor was already dialing the toxicologists. We need to run tests urgently and isolate this object. Rex yapped quietly, then raised his head and looked directly at Leeser. A quiet, weeping sound escaped from his chest, as if he understood her time was running out. In desperation, Olga pressed Leeser's hand to her own. Hold on, little one, please, hold on. In that moment, Rex suddenly approached the girl, rested his head on her chest and whined quietly, very quietly, as if trying to transfer strength to her. And then Leeser opened her eyes again. For a second. Mom, it smelled bad. I wanted to throw it away, but he said I must wear it. Who? Olga almost screamed. I don't know, the girl whispered. He had strange hands, all covered in spots. And she closed her eyes again. The doctor went pale. This could be a dangerous fungus, a contact toxin. If it was on his hands and he gave this to a child. Olga felt everything inside collapsing. God, Leeser. But suddenly, Rex raised his head, and a new look appeared in his gaze, confident, strong. He took a step toward the door and barked quietly, as if saying, We are not finished yet. We must find the one who did this. After the conversation about the strange old man by the school, the doctors urgently took the sachet to a separate laboratory. But anxiety already hung in the air like thick fog. Olga stood by the bunk, stroking her daughter's cold hand. Rex sat nearby, not taking his eyes off the door, as if waiting for something to happen. We must report to the police. The nurse said quietly, looking at Olga. Yes, but first, please save her, the mother whispered. At that moment, the toxicologist entered the ward, a short, graying man with a weary face. He held a plastic container with the sample. This. He paused, choosing his words. This is a mixture of fungal spores, very aggressive. And, judging by everything, someone collected them by hand. These are rarely found in nature. Are they dangerous? The doctor asked. If a child wore this on their chest for several weeks, it could cause systemic inflammation. And he sighed heavily. The symptoms match perfectly. Olga covered her face with her hands. God, who could do such a thing to a child? Rex barked quietly, almost indignantly. Then he approached the backpack again, nudging his nose into a small side pocket, the one no one had checked. He found something again, the nurse said. Olga opened the pocket. Inside lay a small paper scroll. Written on it in childish handwriting was, "Do not open, only for protection." Olga unfolded the paper. It was a note. Uneven, as if someone had dictated it. Wear always on the chest, then the illness will go away. Tell mom it is just a gift. Show no one. Olga's breath hitched. My girl, God, who deceived you like this? And again Leeser opened her eyes. She spoke in a weak voice. He was near the school, spoke quietly. Eyes red. Red. As if inflamed. The toxicologist went pale. Some people who work with toxic mushrooms indeed get inflamed eyes. He looked at the doctors. This is not an accident, this is a crime. But before anything else could be said, Leeser's monitor beeped. Alarmingly. The girl began to cough. Her breathing became labored. Olga screamed, Doctor! Please! The team rushed to the bed. Rex dashed closer, but he was gently pushed away. Olga pressed herself against the wall, looking at her daughter with circles under her eyes. Hold on, sunshine, please. The doctors tried to stabilize Leeser, changing the oxygen flow, but the girl's energy was draining with every minute. And suddenly, amidst the chaos, Rex howled, long and loud. Dogs howl like that when they sense they are losing someone they love. Olga turned sharply to him. Rex, don't, she whispered herself, barely holding back a sob. But the dog was not howling to mourn, but as if warning. He stepped back, then sharply turned and ran out of the ward. Hey, shouted the doctor. Where is he going? But Olga understood immediately, he senses the one who did this. He is nearby. And indeed, a strange smell rushed through the corridor. Mushroom-like, earthy, that very scent. Trembling, Olga ran after Rex. The dog was already racing down the long hallway, overtaking the nurses. Olga tried to keep up. Rex, wait, but he did not stop. In one of the corridor corners stood a man in a black jacket, dirty, with stains on his sleeves. He was holding a plastic bag in which strange dried plants were visible. Olga froze. It is him. The man noticed Rex and froze. Eyes, red, inflamed. Nervous movements. And a facial expression that was anxious. Defensive. Rex growled. Loudly. Olga stepped back. Who are you? She asked in a shaking voice. I just gather herbs, the man rasped. It is medicine. You gave my daughter a sachet, she screamed. Why? The man looked around nervously, as if searching for an exit. I wanted to help. But his hands were shaking, and the smell was too sharp, abnormal. Rex took a step forward. Threateningly, preparing to lunge, and the man abruptly darted toward the stairs. Stop, shouted Olga. Rex tore from his spot and rushed after him. The nurse's station screamed as the dog flew past. Olga ran behind. Stumbling, almost falling. The man was descending the stairs, jumping 2 steps at a time. And Rex was getting closer. The growling echoed. Please. Stop. Olga yelled, but the man dashed down to the rear exit of the hospital, and Rex, his only chance to catch him, raced after him. As if he knew, the truth is there, otherwise Lisa won't survive. Rex tore down the stairs. So fast that his paws sometimes slipped on the smooth steps. But he did not slow down. His breathing was loud, deep, as if he understood that every second mattered. Olga tried to keep pace, but her legs were giving way from fear. Her heart beat like crazy. If this person escapes, we will never know what he did to Lisa. Never. The man in the black jacket ran out onto the lower floor of the hospital. There was a technical corridor there. Almost empty, where patients rarely walked. The lighting was dim, lamps flickered, walls were grey and narrow, shadows lay in ragged patches. This part of the building seemed abandoned. Rex abruptly stopped at a fork in the corridors. He tilted his head, inhaled the air, and dashed to the left. Olga reached the fork and in desperation shouted, Rex, stop! But the dog had already vanished around the corner. The man darted between doors. Trying to find an exit, he looked around like a hunted beast, and in his movements, there was something strange, uncertainty, trembling, panic, as if he feared not only the pursuit but also what he himself had done. When Rex caught up with him at the fire door, the man turned sharply. He raised his hands, they were shaking. Don't come near, he exhaled in a husky voice. Don't come near me. Rex growled so deeply that the sound vibrated in the air. Olga ran up. A few seconds later. She held onto the wall, trying to catch her breath. Please, tell me. What did you give my daughter? Why? The man swallowed loudly. His eyes were indeed red, inflamed, as if he had cried for a long time or not slept nights. I didn't want to harm her, he whispered. I gathered these herbs all summer. I was told they heal, they help. Who told you? Olga asked sharply. People in one community. He averted his eyes. In the internet, they believe in natural methods, mushrooms, herbs, purification. He spoke as if he didn't fully understand what he had gotten himself into. I gave it to several children, he added quietly. And inside Olga, everything snapped. You did what? Her voice broke. Only to those who, you know, get sick often. I thought I was helping. His lips trembled. I treated myself with this. I wore the same sachets, but my body coped. I didn't know that for a child. Rex snorted, moving even closer. He sensed the lie, sensed the danger. Where did you get this? Olga interrogated, stepping closer. Where did you find these mushrooms? In the old greenhouses, outside the city, the man mumbled. There is a lot of mold there. I gathered what was growing. Olga closed her eyes. The toxicologist said such spores are a rarity. But when breathed in every day, it is poison. You caused my daughter pain. She said quietly. You nearly killed her. The man stepped back, but behind him was only a steel door. I wanted to help. But at that exact moment, the door flew open. 2 hospital security guards, large, sturdy men, appeared right behind his back. Hands up, ordered one. You are under arrest until the police arrive, over there, said the second. The man tried to break free, but Rex growled in such a way that he froze on the spot. When the guards detained him, the man was almost weeping. I didn't want to harm anyone. But Olga was no longer listening to him. She leaned against the wall, trying to regain her breathing. Rex gently nudged her hand with his nose, as if reminding her, Lisa is still there. She needs you. Yes, whispered Olga. Let's go. They ran back down the corridor. Everything inside her was pounding, fear, anger, despair. And only one feeling kept her from falling, hope. When they returned to their ward, the doctors were still bustling around Lisa. Her skin had become even paler. Her lips had turned blue. Olga barely suppressed a scream. The toxicologist looked up. We found a high level of toxins in her blood. It is indeed connected to the fungal spores. But now that the source has been found, we can begin the correct treatment. Will she survive? Olga asked. Her voice trembled. The toxicologist held her gaze. We will do everything possible, but the struggle will be difficult. Her body is weakened. Olga approached the bed and took her daughter's hand. I am here, sunshine. I am with you. Rex lay at the foot of the bed, placed his muzzle on his paws. He did not take his eyes off Lisa. And suddenly the girl whispered quietly, Mom. Yes, sweetie. Did you find him? Yes. And he will never harm you again. I promise. Lisa smiled faintly. Her eyes closed, but that weak smile was the first ray of hope all day. The attending physicians began to act swiftly. Now that it was clear exactly what was poisoning Lisa, the treatment protocol was modified. Additional equipment was brought into the ward. Oxygen delivery was increased, and they started administering drugs aimed at removing toxins and stabilizing breathing. Olga sat nearby, not letting go of her daughter's hand. Her fingers were almost numb. But she could not let go, as if trying to transmit strength, faith, and warmth to Lisa through touch. Rex lay by the bed, motionless. He did not eat, did not drink, did not react to anyone, only looked at Lisa, whining barely audibly. A nurse walked by and said quietly, I have never seen such devotion. It is as if he feels everything happening to her. Olga nodded, not even raising her eyes. He has always been nearby. They grew up together. The hours dragged on slowly. Lisa's breathing sometimes became steadier, but then faltered again. One moment gave hope, the other took it away. By evening, the toxicologist arrived. He held a stack of papers. We have the results of the urgent tests, he said. The condition is severe, but she has a chance. We haven't flushed out all the toxins, but we are making it in time. Now the main thing is not to let the body go into shock and to maintain respiration. Olga peered into his face. She will survive, tell me honestly. He held his gaze for a second, but eventually nodded. Yes, I think she will survive, but monitoring is needed. The next few days will be decisive. Tears ran down Olga's cheeks. This was the first time she allowed herself to let go of the fear even a little. Lisa moved quietly. Olga leaned in. The girl's lips barely moved. Mom. Rex. Where is he? He is here, sunshine, right by your side. He hasn't left you for a minute. Rex lifted his head and stood up. He gently placed a paw on the edge of the bed, leaned in, and touched Lisa's hand with his nose. The girl smiled. Quietly, but genuinely. And that smile made Olga feel, for the first time in days, that the world could become bright again. You are my hero, Lisa whispered to the dog. Rex quietly yapped, as if answering, I am here. The night passed calmly. By morning, Lisa's vitals began to improve. In small steps, but steadily. And for the first time in all this while, Olga dozed off nearby, resting her head on the edge of the bed. When she woke up, Lisa was sitting up, weakly, but on her own. She was stroking Rex on the head. Mom, I want to go home. Olga smiled through tears. Soon, sweetie, soon. 4 days later, Lisa was discharged. She was still frail, but her eyes shone again not with pain, but with life. Olga supported her as they walked toward the hospital exit. Rex walked alongside, head held high with pride, as if he was the one who saved her, and he knew it. Outside, there was a warm breeze. Lisa stopped, took a deep breath of the air, and smiled. Mom, you know, if it weren't for Rex. Olga hugged her close. I know, sunshine. He sensed what none of us could. Later at home, Lisa sat for a long time next to Rex, snuggling into his fur. You are my protector, she said, petting him. My true friend. Rex responded with a soft, contented snort. Olga watched them, and her chest felt warm. The fear was leaving, the pain too. Only gratitude remained. The man who gave Lisa that sachet was handed over to the police. It turned out he truly believed he was helping people. But his ignorance and uncontrolled experiments led to a tragedy. Now he had to answer for his actions. But Olga decided not to think about him anymore. The most important thing, her daughter is alive. That evening, the three of them sat on the sofa. Lisa rested her head on Rex. He saw what no one else saw, she whispered. Olga nodded. Yes, dear, sometimes the heart understands more than the eyes. And Rex has the kindest heart in the world. And at that moment, Olga felt for the first time that life was returning. And most importantly, hope had returned home. M.